Welcome to Sailing El Jaleo. I am a mid-40-year-old who in my early 40s became disillusioned with modern society and all of its promises and pitfalls. Feeling that life was getting a little too boring, I decided to do the logical thing, which is to buy a 40-year-old sailboat and spend the next 3 or 4 years converting it into a long-range off-grid sailing vessel. Or it might have just been a midlife crisis, who knows. From there, I enlisted the help of my trusty crew, and we've been spending the last 3 years going up and down the east coast of the United States, learning how to sail, learning how to read charts, how to navigate, how to read tides, and basically just how to survive on a sailboat. From here, we plan on spending one more summer up north, doing one last round of upgrades before finally escaping the United States in late 2024 or early 2025. These are our adventures. Feel free to come along if you'd like. At the end of last week's episode, we had just gone through Hellgate and we were now entering the land of Georgia's sounds. Georgia has a lot of little sounds. They're not big like up north in North Carolina. You've got like Albemarle Sound, that's 10 or 12 miles across. That's a big sound. These are much smaller, but there are many of them. This week we'll be going through St. Catherine Sound, Sapelo Sound, Doughboy Sound, Altamaha Sound, and St. Simon Sound. So a lot of little sounds, and we're going to blow right through them, so we might as well go ahead and get right into it. Grab a drink, climb aboard, and let's get going. After making it through Savannah and Hellgate, we entered into one of the longest stretches of the Intracoastal Waterway that I really enjoy. Every state, the Intracoastal Waterway in every state has a very unique feel to it. You know, Chesapeake Bay is not part of the Intracoastal Waterway, but it is, it's Chesapeake Bay. It's long, and it's, you have to be very careful with weather there. Virginia, there are a lot of canals. Virginia, the Intracoastal Waterway is very short there. Then you get into North Carolina, that's dominated by huge bodies of water. It's just so expansive. Albemarle Sound, the Alligator River, Neuse River, Pamlico River, just all of these massive bodies of water. And once you get into South Carolina, there are lots of little cuts, little rivers. It's very populated. You've got all your beach towns, your Myrtle Beach, your North Myrtle Beach, your Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach. It's a very, everywhere you go there are docks. It's just a very popular place, and it's beautiful. It should be popular. Once you get into Georgia, once you get south of Savannah and through Hellgate, it becomes one of my favorite parts of the Intracoastal Waterway. It's very expansive. It feels very natural. There aren't a lot of man-made cuts. It's a lot of natural rivers connecting to one another. You're right along the coastline. There are lots of little sounds that you go through, and it's very secluded, I guess would be. It's not very populated. And there's not very much cover, but there is tons of protection. So it's a lot of grasslands, a lot of tidal estuaries. It's just a very beautiful place, and you get a lot of protection from waves. There are tons of places to anchor all throughout Georgia. Tons of little rivers, little tributaries. It's just absolutely beautiful. And you are exposed to wind, so when you have high wind, you'll be hit with the wind. But you can get somewhere where you're very protected from waves. So those are the conditions that we like best. We like to be exposed to the wind so we can get some wind power in through our wind generator, Jenny. And when Jenny's humming away and we have no waves, that's when we're happiest. In Georgia, it is so beautiful. It's I think their coastline is like 120 miles of coastline, so they don't have a ton of it. But what they have is it's very secluded. It's very beautiful. If you ever get a chance to travel up and down the Intracoastal Waterway, the whole thing is beautiful, but there will be some parts that are just stunning. And if you like being secluded, you like being away from people, this is definitely one of those places. You do go through some big towns in Georgia, but for the most part, you go around them or beside them. You don't really have a lot of interaction, and you can go hours. You'll see other boats on the Intracoastal Waterway, especially if you're traveling during one of the more popular times of the year, with the main north or south traffic, but otherwise it's very secluded. You can find an anchorage all by yourself. It's not a problem if that's what you like. Lots of marinas if that's your style, but it's just, Georgia is a beautiful, beautiful place to travel through. We did end up staying at this anchorage for a full day. We had to wait out a bunch of rain, and it was beautiful. It was one of the better anchorages that we've been to in Georgia, and unfortunately it's a little too close to a protected shellfish area for my comfort. They do have anchoring rules in Georgia. There are areas that are designated shellfish protected shellfish areas, I should say, and you do have to anchor 500 feet away from them. Now in this river you can get 500 feet away, but you're pretty close to the other shoreline, and I did drop the anchor 500 feet away, and then the current actually takes you out and keeps you in the middle of the river. So I don't know if that's legal, and it was better to be safe than sorry. I've never had anyone call me on it. I have anchored beside shellfish areas before, and I've always, stuck to the letter of the law and have been far enough away. But this one, there was a little gray area because technically I was anchored far enough away, but my boat was closer than my anchor was, so I just didn't want to have any problems. So we waited out our one day of rain, and then we moved on. If this hadn't been so close to a protected shellfish area, I would have stayed here for a few days. It was just absolutely beautiful. There were wild, I don't know if they're boars or hogs, but there were some feral pigs on that little island beside us. It was very neat. And, unfortunately, I just didn't want to run afoul of the authorities. So we moved on, and the day that we did travel, we didn't go very far. It was maybe 12 miles up to the next anchorage. And unfortunately, the camera crapped out when it was raining, but yeah, we moved on and found a place that was a little bit more comfortable from a regulation standpoint. And that's all we have time for this week. I would love to give a massive shout out to my Patreon crew. Without your guys' support, I would not make these videos. And my Patreon crew is Joan and Juddy Judnick, Val and Chris Alcorn, Denise and Eli Sackett, Sherry Erickson, Deb Shaw, Matthew Spotten, and Peter Allen. Thank you guys so much for your support. It really means the world to me. And I do have one legacy patron member. Her name is Joan Lindbow. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but she lives on in our hearts forever. We miss you, Joan. If you are interested in joining our Patreon crew, there is a link in the description down below. That'll take you to our Patreon page where you can sign up, and that'll give you access to hundreds of behind-the-scenes photos and videos and real-time updates to let you know where we're at and what's going on. And you would help support the channel, which would be awesome. If you do like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us out more than you'll ever know. Alrighty, I hope you all are well, and we'll see you next week.